This is a little different than my usual video. This is lost footage, cutting room floor stuff that just didn't make it into several of my last videos. Just a quick list here in case you want to skip around. We got horses and dogs, the snow day we had, some bird footage, some random B-roll stuff, our beach trip when I took the kids to the beach and it was foggy the whole time, the Dirty Bird Q&A, and the third test flight. Feel free to skip around or watch the whole thing. I thought it was too good not to post, but it didn't really make sense to mix it in another video. So here it is, guys. Enjoy.
Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Hey, now. What you doing, huh? Smokey. For a little bit of flying. I'll see you up there. Clip. We're too close now, but this is when you land. Looks like the wind blew over that deer stand last night. Dang, ripped the top off of it. Lots of rain. Lots of rain. I'm so mesmerized by seeing another pilot in the sky. I'm so used to not seeing anyone else. It looks like the Kylo shows up pretty good when it's real muddy outside. I wonder when Google's gonna take a picture. Killed it. Let's see if I can make it over here now. I'll sleek up my glide. I can hear the air going by. It's like the wind is coming straight out of the northwest. Now it's coming out of the north. That's what I like. That's what I like. Hit some deep brakes. You can hit your deep brakes up high. Get that glide angle choked down sufficiently. Still got a turn, and I got distance, and I got altitude. I'm just going to let off one side of the brake. Get a little dive out of it. At this point, I'm going to go deep into brakes again. Not stall it, but deep into brakes. Holding some substantial brake. Right on the line. Good stuff.
The deer, the dog deer. Hey, what's going on, Gizzy? Oh, it's hard to keep the camera on him. Uh-oh.
More like a strip naked underneath it.
Yeah, that would work.
So we made it to the beach. Wind's blowing offshore, it's foggy, but I think it's gonna change. And then we're gonna start kiting exercises. I just couldn't handle it anymore. The weather was so bad back home. They were predicting more bad. We just had to bolt, had to get out from under it. It rained the whole way down here until about a mile before we got here, and then it stopped. So how lucky can you get? We couldn't go any further because we're at the ocean. So I went from the northernmost part of the state to the southernmost part of the state. One long haul.
So, Mom and Dad are on a date.
last weekend at the beach was awesome.
Hey, welcome to Monday at the drugstore. We're gonna get some answers to some of these questions in between prescriptions here. Okay, Michael Kennedy asks, are you thinking of possibly starting a production of the Dirty Bird PPG company? No, it's a labor of love. Of course, for the right price, I'll do just about anything. I mean, $20 is $20, right? 3-blade prop, Nick Radford asks. 2 blades seems to be the clear winner. That is correct. 2-blade prop is more efficient than a 3-blade. It's more efficient than a 4-blade, and so on. I wanted something different. I had an extra $100, so I bought a little more expensive prop. 3-blade's working good, and I kind of like that high-pitched chop of it. Been waiting for your maiden fly. Got a Bowflex. Kylo, you're a superhero. Thank you, K-Frame. James Stump asks, I would wonder if there's a way to test the drag. Now, we're not going super fast on these things. There's not a lot of drag anyway. With the motor off is kind of where you run into drag points where you're not thrusting. So, you know, you might increase your glide. You know, the difference between a pod harness and a regular harness is about a point of glide slope. So it may actually make a fraction of a point. Smaller lines, less tubes, less fuel tank sticking out. Every little bit helps. It's probably not worth calculating, but there's an obvious difference there for sure. Done the break-in and thermal cycles yet? Did you use the exact manufacturer's recommendations? I was told it's a bit too precise. What do you think? The way I break in a 2-stroke engine, run it through some heat cycles, blip the throttle here and there, rev it up, get it hot, let it cool, rev it up, get it hot, let it cool. I'm running oil in there, that rich oil on the bearings, letting all the metal parts seat together. The one that they recommend in the manual, I mean, it's a recommendation. I mean, when a motor's running, got a customer. They have to put something in the instruction manual. Half dozen of one, 6 of the other. It's really the same thing you're accomplishing there. I do agree that you don't want to hold it at a steady RPM for an extended amount of time. Running it up high and then letting it back down, that's the way that you want to do a proper break-in on an engine. Submerged Angel. A lot of paramotor design seems to be about getting the heavier components as close to the pilot's back as possible to reduce torque leverage of said weight. And I wonder if you had to move things further away from your back to fit the tank in. Be interesting to hear how it feels on your back compared to others. The motor sits closer than some designs that do not have the tank there. I just built the tank to fill in those gaps that where there's empty space or maybe just support tubing or something in some of the other designs. I just use that extra space for fuel capacity. And so I was able to tuck in the 5-gallon capacity right around everything that was already there in the design. The motor mounts sit just like the base of the mounts are 1 inch behind the harness. So it's really close to my back. I thought about moving the propeller out a little bit just to give it a little more increased efficiency. Also, the fact that I'm using an aluminum tank, I'm not worried about the heat from the exhaust melting plastic. And that aluminum will transmit that heat quite well. Also being polished shiny, it'll reflect a lot of that energy actually. And then I was able to get the exhaust components a lot closer to the tank. How does it compare to other paramotors that come to the same weight as yours? Man, it feels good. I'm real pleased with the way it feels. It's very comfortable. It's not awkward or unusual. Feels very natural as far as the way a paramotor feels. At first, they all feel kind of awkward. Jeff Roxid says, does it break down at all? I mean, disassemble. Do you do ever shooting for fun? It doesn't break down. I welded it as a mono design for strength. I never break down a paramotor. I carry them on the back of the pickup truck or in the camper. I really have no need to break one down. Do I shoot for fun? Yes, I do. More than the public knows. Not only do I live on an airport, I also live on a gun range. Can I fly it when you're finished with it? Chaos Paddlers? If you demonstrate proper skill and technique, you're welcome to take her for a ride. I do not mind at all. This is Corey Kohlberg. 5 gallons into the tank, or are you adding another tank somewhere? No, that tank holds 5 gallons just the way it sits. If I fill it up to the top, I've got maximum legal capacity. That was the original design parameter that I had, was maximum legal fuel capacity on a foot-launched paramotor. Something I've not come across without adding an external bag or something. Fish or carne asada? Carne asada, man. You're hard-pressed to not be in that 80-pound range. I've got no issues launching a heavy paramotor. It's something that I've done hundreds and hundreds of times. Probably 100-plus pounds I've launched on a regular basis back in the day. Proper technique and everything works. The motor does the work. Once you develop your technique, you'll realize that the weight is not important. You can fly a light one one, you can fly a heavier one. But if you use proper technique, it doesn't matter. And the heavy paramotor actually forced me to refine my technique because I didn't want to stop and reset a blown launch. Very reasonably weighted paramotor for what it is, long range, high capacity paramotor. Did you employ any sort of torque compensation? This is from Dennis Gray. Offset swing arms and the like. What was your thinking on how to approach the issue? I'm real familiar with gyroscopic precession and torque factors and other things that come into play with a spinning propeller due to my old airplane days and the fact that I'm a scientist on the side. Yes, I compensated for the torque by offsetting the engine thrust line about 1 inch, and that was just a guess. I had no real data to compare that to. I just took a whack at it, and I also bent the swing arms to offset those about 1 inch. Apparently it's right on cue. At full power right now, it turns very slightly to the right. Just a simple weight shift left straightens it right out at full power. So I'm very pleased with the torque compensation, the way it worked. You could have saved weight by building it completely in titanium, excluding the cost. Actually, aluminum weighs less than titanium. Titanium is much stronger for the same weight, but no, titanium would have made a heavier paramotor. Of course, you've got the flexibility to lighten up some parts then, and I could have made this one lighter if I had shaved some of the parts in the right spots, but I didn't want to invest too much time in shaving off weight because honestly I didn't know if the thing would work or not when I was building it. So it was more of a zip it together and leave the beefy parts beefy and see what we're looking at. You know, if I was to do another version of it, I would lighten up some of the parts, probably save a few pounds, but a few pounds is not a big difference to me. Time saved was worth the extra couple of pounds. What do you think you have tied up money wise in this awesome unit? Oh Lord, Michael Kennedy, I don't know. That excluding the tooling, which took me 20 years to acquire some of that stuff. You know, a brand new Moster engine retails for about $2,500. I got a better deal than that, but I promised the guy that made the deal with me that I would not disclose the amount. So that's top secret. I did get a good deal on that with one of my friends. Oh, the aluminum, the raw aluminum. I got a couple $100 tied up in the aluminum, and I've still got quite a bit left over. You know, I've probably got roughly $3,500 tied up just in materials alone. That's excluding time, tooling, and education, all that stuff. You know, it's probably a $50,000 paramotor. Rusty Kyler used to watch the Squidbillies. That's a funny cartoon. No, I'm not worried about shaving weight. I'm good. Boy, I hear the rain coming down. That's just lovely. What we're dealing with, it ain't like we just had like a record flood. Raining again. Fantastic. That's my man Chris, y'all. He makes my lunch. Yeah. What are we having today? I want to explain this shop camera situation. You've probably seen in one of my previous videos that I mentioned dropping this camera and scratching the lens right here. You can see the blur. It should be right about here, I would think. It's a scratch in the lens where it took a skid across the concrete floor. But I'm going to keep it in the shop because it's a shop camera and it does record, but y'all are going to deal with this smudge with this camera. I'm doing this stuff for free. It's just the camera works and it makes video. It's just got to have a smudge in it. Somebody wants to donate a camera to me, I switch it out, but I don't think I'm going to buy another one unless it actually stops working. You never know. I may get smashed with a bullet or a piece of shrapnel, something around here. You just can't ever tell. It's time to clean up. I've made a mess in this thing, and before I can do anything else, I've got to undo most of what I did to get this thing happening. So stand by. Guess what? Sun's out. Hey, Hey y'all, so it's the first post time change after work Kylo special. I put a little extra fuel in the Paramotor because I've got sort of a high wind condition out here at the airport. And 8 to 10, that's a low gust factor, pretty steady. There's not a lot of switches. There was one big one when I got here, and then it's just been nice and steady for the last 10 or 15 minutes. And it's gonna be the third test flight on the Dirty Bird. So that was a pretty good test flight. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I actually got to put the machine through some paces tonight, like some real turning and burning, some hard acceleration. Got a little more aggressive with the motor since I'm further into the break-in period. I'm still just delighted beyond belief. Man, and all the positive comments that I've gotten on the channel, I really appreciate those. Even criticisms too, you know, questions that you have about stuff. I take everything to heart. I don't discount anything anybody says. Often I've actually already thought out the answer ahead of time. I tried to put in as much research and thought into this build as possible. I think it's worked out well, you know, everything is balanced right, it flies straight. Tonight I was doing full power turns. This thing has amazing weight shift capability. I'm very impressed with whatever I did that made it work so well. I had no idea, it was all kind of a guess. Lord, the mosquitoes are swarming. I'm gonna get this thing packed up before I get blood sucked and catch the West Nile and the bird flu and all that stuff. You say, I'm just overwhelmed, y'all. It's been a good experience building, flying, testing my own rig. Hope to see everybody soon. Much love, y'all. Kyle out.